We'll be getting started in just a moment. Please feel free to share in the chat where you're joining us from.
Oh, I love it. It's fascinating.
We'll be starting in just a moment.
Good turnout. I see some folks who have attended last week's seminar will be joining us too.
Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the National University Speaker Series. My name is Nancy Roland Heinrich, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Vice President of Communications and Community Engagement for National University. I am also proud to be the founder and host of our NU Speaker Series. Over the past 3 years, we've held over 40 webinars with notable presenters and subject matter experts on a wide variety of topics. These webinars have been very valuable for our audiences. So whether you're joining us today as a current student, an alum, a faculty member, staff, or community member, we are pleased to have you join us, and everyone is always welcome to the NU Speaker Series. Before we get started, I'd like to share a little information about National University. We are pleased to be celebrating this fall our 53rd anniversary. NU has always been focused on meeting the needs of non-traditional working and military students. Currently, we serve more than 50,000 degree-seeking students enrolled in more than 150 programs at the undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral level. We also have another 80,000 learners affiliated with the university who are in our extended learning and professional development programs. I am pleased to share that in June, our National University alumni accomplished an important milestone. We reached an impressive total of 200,000 National University graduates. Collectively, with our broader NU alumni network, now exceeds 240,000 members, which includes our graduates from JFKU and North Central University. But let's get started on tonight's speaker series. I think you're in for a treat. We are fortunate to have Trevor Blair returning as our presenter for a second time based on popular demand. Today's topic will be interesting as the focus will be on the importance of mentoring and making it a win-win relationship. Many of us have had great mentors throughout our careers, as well as served as mentors. So this should be very relevant for all of you. Trevor is a seasoned professional in the recruiting and HR field with more than 20 years of experience in executive search, recruiting, and workforce development. He began his career at Manpower and was initially based in Sydney, Australia. I'm sure there's more to that story, and later returned to San Diego to Manpower. His roles included business development manager and later shifted to focusing on workforce development and executive search practices. His experience led him to launching his own firm, Blair Search Partners, where he serves as CEO. And the specialization is truly searching for engagement opportunities for nonprofit and public sector clients. I'd like to share with you that Trevor is an avid endurance athlete, having competed in more than 200 triathlons around the world. He is a 10-time Ironman finisher and 3-time Boston Marathon finisher. Very impressive.
Mhm.
He holds a bachelor's from University of Pennsylvania and an MBA from USC. We look forward to finding out more from Trevor on this topic of mentoring. But before we get started, I'd like to share with you that following the presentation, we will have a moderated Q&A session. And today, we will also be joined by one of my colleagues, Heather Pedraita, who will serve as the moderator for the discussion following the presentation. Heather is the Associate Director of Alumni and Community Relations for National University and has rich experience in this area of mentoring, as National University has a mentoring network, which is a wonderful way to bridge our alumni and our current students. But at this time, it is my pleasure to turn the program over to Trevor Blair to share his expertise on mentoring. Trevor?
Okay, thank you, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be with everyone here this evening. And let me also say again, thank you to Heather and thank you to Lindsay Myman, who will be manning the deck for us here. And so we want to make this as interactive as possible. And so we're going to encourage folks to ask questions as we go along, put comments in the chat, and we'll try and address as much of those questions and comments as we can as we go along. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of that, because if it's a question that's on your mind, or if it's something that you have experienced in life or career, chances are you're not the only person on this call who has that same question. There's 60 folks on the call, and so I guarantee if you ask that question, there's probably more than a handful of folks who were thinking about the same thing. So good for you, good for them as well for putting those questions out there. So we're going to talk about mentoring at a very broad level, but let me start with a couple of things, and that is one, in sector application. Everything we're going to talk about here today is relevant for every career, every sector, whether you are in the corporate world, the nonprofit world, the public sector, higher ed, K-12 education. The strategies and tactics that we're going to talk about around mentoring apply equally no matter what your career sector is or your chosen field is within that sector. So everyone should get a lot of good ideas out of today's conversation. The other thing I want to point out is that mentoring happens every single day, whether you know it or not, formal or informal. It is really a process by where professional and personal development is going on through learning from other individuals, and that can take place anywhere, anytime. And so before we really get into the presentation, I wanted to just plant that seed to be aware that you're probably mentoring someone every day without even knowing it, and you're probably being mentored without maybe even knowing it yourself as well. So keeping our eyes and ears open to those serendipitous opportunities as they come up as part of everyday life is one thing, but then there's also a lot that we can do to be more strategic and include some structured mentoring, both as a mentor and a mentee in life and career. So what I'd love to do next, Heather, is if we could get a feel for who's on the call with us today. And I think we've got a question. We'd love to get to know a little bit more about you and your background. And so Heather's going to put something up, and if you could please share with us a little bit, that'll help us get to know you and maybe also help us tailor the focus and the content a little more today. Heather?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Trevor. I'm going to hit launch right now, and our participants should see that question pop up on the screen. So we're asking, what is your current relationship to mentoring? And this is multiple choice. So are you a mentor? Maybe you have a mentor. You've been mentored or been in a mentoring relationship in the past, but you're not now. Or maybe you've never had that relationship. So choose whatever applies. got some good responses coming in. The bars are jumping back and forth all around the screen. So we'll leave it up for a few minutes here and give everyone the chance to chime in.
And would you like us to continue with the deck, Heather, or do you want to pause while we wait for the rest of the responses to come in?
Let's give it another 30 seconds or so.
Okay.
Give people time to chime in, and then I'll let you know what those results say, and that'll help us guide the conversation from here as well. We have about 50 who've responded so far, and the breakdown is essentially, let's see, let's go ahead and share this out. So about 49% are a mentor. They're actually actively mentoring. About 26% have a mentor. About 26% have utilized mentoring in the past, but they're not currently doing so.
Okay.
And 20% have never been a mentor or had a mentee. So we've got 20% who are completely new to the idea.
Okay.
And then a good chunk that have at least done it or are actively doing it.
Great. Okay. Well, that is helpful. Thank you for sharing out, everyone. And I love to see the 49% of you who are mentors today. Thank you for making that investment. And I think you'll get a lot out of today's conversation. Lindsay, why don't we go ahead and move to the first slide? And this is not going to be death by PowerPoint. We have just 4 slides. Again, this is much more of a conversation. The slides are just there to guide the conversation. But the title of the presentation today, again, making mentoring a win-win. And that is one of the most important things, is that the mentor and the mentee both benefit from this relationship. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of work, right? You want to be getting out, ideally, as much as you are putting in, but also recognizing that the mentor-mentee relationship should be flexible. The best relationships that I have seen are those that allow for give and take, but net, both parties are both deriving benefit. And so when you're entering into a mentoring relationship, particularly if we are the younger of the two parties, there is this feeling that, the learning is one way, and I'm trying to have this, more experienced person take me under their wing, and I'm here to just soak it all up and learn. That mentoring relationship may not last very long, right? Because that would be an example of a one-way street. There needs to be value in it for the mentor as well. And so some of you who have some experience with mentoring have maybe had those mentee relationships where you're not getting much in return and you feel you're giving. And it kind of becomes exhausting at the end of the day. And so putting it back on the mentee, remember that we all have, whether we know it or not, areas of expertise, whether they are uncovered or we're well aware of them. And so as a mentee, it is on you to really think about not only what do I want to get out of this relationship, but what is my value add? What do I bring? What can I offer to my mentor to help enrich their lives as well? And it doesn't necessarily have to be something profound or something necessarily very structured. It doesn't always have to be career oriented as well. There's a lot of different ways you can bring value into someone's life. It could be something like, maybe you're an amazing chef and you share that with them. Maybe you come to each meeting, you bring them something new, a new recipe that you've tried, and encouraging them to take the plunge with cooking. And giving them that extra nudge and some guidance and pointing them in the right direction. It's just another small way that you can add value for them, but also ask questions, right? What are they struggling with? What are they thinking about? What's on their mind? What do they like to do? And it may not come to you right off the bat, right? It may take several sessions, several conversations before you really get to know each other well enough to identify where you can add value for them. And it is not static. These relationships should be dynamic. They should be changing and flexing and morphing. And the way that you're adding value for your mentor or your mentee today may look radically different 6 months from now based on how their life is evolving and how things are changing. And when I say take the initiative, one of the things that I have seen that can short circuit a potential mentoring relationship is over-formalizing it. And particularly for those mentors that you might be aspiring to engage with, the more senior they are, the farther along they are in their career, the larger the organization that they run, the more demands they have on their time. And probably also the more people that are trying to engage with them as a potential mentor. And so you want to be sensitive to that. And what I have found works best is when you take a more, and I don't mean to belittle mentoring at all, but taking a more casual approach to it, right? When you approach somebody right out of the gate and say, will you be my mentor? And I'd love to meet with you for coffee once a month. And I think there's a lot I can learn from you. That's coming on way too strong. And that's coming on from a standpoint laden with structure. And you're automatically implying a long-term significant commitment on this person's time. That is likely to put someone off, especially if they are a very busy individual in a very demanding career or who have very full personal lives or both. They're going to think, oh, whoa, hang on, I don't think I have time for that. That sounds too much. I'm already chairing 2 boards and I sit on all these committees and I run a company, yada, yada, yada. So making mentoring flexible and something that works for you and for them, I think taking a softer approach is usually much more effective. And the lighter the ask seems, the more likely you will get a positive response, right? So as opposed to approaching someone and saying, I've identified you as a leader in my field, will you be my mentor? Which also just sounds a little artificial, right? Reaching out from time to time and saying, hey, I'd love to grab coffee. I know you've got a packed schedule, but if you could fit me in even for 30 minutes here or there, I've got some questions and would love your guidance. I would appreciate spending some time together if we could do that. And don't necessarily commit to something that's structured. It is, you'll see on the deck, it is definitely on you as the mentee to schedule the meetings, but be mindful of their schedule. Take a flexible approach and find what works for them. Are they a morning person? Are they an evening person? Choose the venue very carefully, but it is up to you as the mentee to follow up and to keep the relationship moving forward. So it is up to you to ask for each successive meeting. You may find that they do like to schedule things in advance, which would be amazing, right? If at the end of the meeting, your mentor pulls out their phone and says, okay, happy to get together again. Let's look at some dates. If they give you the go ahead to lock in and pick a date right then and there, by all means, jump at that. But you don't want to put them off by coming at them and saying, I'd like to schedule the next 6 months of meetings in advance. So again, being focused but flexible in your approach. I'm going to talk about venue, and then I see we've already got some questions coming in, so I'll take a pause to talk about those questions. Picking the venue of your mentor relationship, I think, is incredibly important, particularly for in-person meetings. Now, again, mentoring can be by phone, it can be by email. I still think nothing beats quality in-person conversation, especially for mentoring, because you want to give this relationship the space, the room to run. And if you're sitting down with someone in person, breaking bread, that relationship can accelerate so much more quickly and go so deeper than it can in a virtual setting. In a virtual setting, people just aren't programmed to open up and share in the same way. Now, granted, that limits your universe of mentors because, the person you might want to enter into a mentoring relationship might be on the other side of the country. But if and when at all possible, doing these things in person makes a huge, huge difference. And in my opinion, breaking bread together, doing it over coffee, doing it over a happy hour or a meal is even better, because it takes the relationship out of the workspace and moves it into an entirely other area on its own. And there is something magical about sharing food, sharing a beverage. It gives you shared purpose. You're coming together, not necessarily to tackle an issue. You're coming together to enjoy nourishment and have a conversation. And so that's why we see so many in life, right? So many meetings happen at coffee shops, happen over lunch, happen over dinners, right? Choose a venue that's going to be strategic for the conversation, that it puts both people at ease, that it is accessible from a commuting standpoint, the noise level, the formality. I find that some coffee shops work really well. Some coffee shops don't work really well because they're too noisy and the tables are too close together, and you're not in a space where someone's going to feel free to open up and really share about their life and also to give you maybe some of the very real guidance that you're looking for if it's not an environment that puts everyone at ease and kind of can be confidential. The other thing, and I see the comment, thank you, Lindsay. Yes, if we can talk more about that too, introverts versus extroverts. I think we are all on a scale, and I think we're not necessarily all one or all the other. And you'll probably notice that during some parts of the day, some seasons in your life, you may tend towards more introversion, and other times you may tend more towards extroversion. But the idea, again, about selecting a venue is something that would put both at ease, right? And so for the extrovert that draws energy around from being around other people, doing it in a secluded office is probably going to drain their battery. Doing it at a coffee shop where there's just other people in the room is probably going to help charge their battery back up. You may get more out of that conversation and ultimately out of that relationship if it's done in that kind of a setting. Okay, I think we have a couple Q&A. Heather, any you'd like me to address right now?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to launch another poll. We just want to get an idea of those who are here, their affiliation with NU. So you should see that coming up on your screen shortly. We're essentially asking, are they student, alum, faculty, staff, or maybe another community member? And that'll help us see who's in the room as well. Trevor, you're so familiar with NU, and so you know most of our students are not typical college student age, right? They're not 18 to 24 putting on a backpack and expecting the traditional college experience. Most of them are, average age 32, 33. So even our students are usually already in successful careers and then looking to make another move. And so let's see who's here now. Looks like we have about 51 or so that have answered. I'll go ahead and share out those results. We've got 43% are students, 27% are alumni, 27% are faculty staff, and another 2% that are other or community members. So a good mix there. One thing that came up in the chat that I thought was a great question was someone said, how do you know if you're qualified to be a mentor? If you get asked to be a mentor, and how do you know if you're qualified to do that?
Well, you know what? I think the very fact that you've been asked to be a mentor means you're qualified, right? Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, we all have unique skills and abilities and something to offer. And just the fact that somebody, and I'll go back up to bullet point number 2 here, identifying your mentor, just the very fact that someone has identified you to ask the question of you would be a clear indication to me that they see something in you that they feel they could benefit from. And so I think that's a perfect lead in back to number 2, identifying your mentor, is choose wisely, right? Even as mentees, we are all so busy. We have so many demands on our time. Even if you're a student and just about to enter the workforce, right? Your time is precious and you want to be strategic about where you invest that time. And so really research potential mentors, do your homework, and be thoughtful about who and how you are reaching out. Because the ask must be genuine. It must show that You have been thoughtful about this, that you're not just going about this scattershot and just trying to like find CEOs in your local area who would have a coffee with you, right? You really want to, I don't want to use the term flattery, but you want to make it clear to them that this ask is not something you make lightly, and that you have really thought about them and how they can add value. If nothing else, from just hearing their story. We talk a lot about informational interviewing, which is in a way kind of like mentoring, right? Informational interviewing is where you are meeting with someone who has experience or contacts in the field of interest for you. You're not asking them for a job. You're not asking them for leads or anything like that. You're just asking to spend time with them, to hear their story, to learn about the field and the sector. And you just want to get them open up and get them talking. And inevitably, as they're speaking, nuggets of wisdom are falling out, right, as they're talking. And you will come away with much to learn. But people love to tell their own story. And that's probably one of the biggest pieces of mentoring, is someone sharing their story, their path, their journey with someone else who is likely to go on a same path, or who is considering getting onto that path. And people love to talk about themselves. It's just basic human nature, right? And the funny thing is, and for those of you who have attended some of our other sessions, you've heard this, data show that the more people speak at you, the more they like you. And that sounds so weird, right? Just by sitting there, not saying a word and letting them speak at you, your likability in their mind actually goes up too. So part of forming a strong mentoring relationship as the mentee is also being a good listener. And, none of this is rocket science at all. It's picking the right people, being thoughtful about it, asking good questions, being a good listener, and following up. And I'm kind of mishmashing the next 3 slides here together, but the follow-up piece is really worth repeating. This really is more directed towards the mentees. In the digital age, we have lost the art of person-to-person communication, right? Handwritten thank you notes are a thing of the past. Using a telephone to actually make a call is kind of archaic these days now, right? When we think about what's the ratio of text messages we send from our phone versus phone calls we actually make from our phone, it has changed dramatically. And so as the world becomes more digitized and less personal, I think we need to double down on the personal aspects of the mentor-mentee relationship, which means, when we can, meeting in person. It means following up and saying thank you. A handwritten card goes a very, very long way. It means, as a mentor, picking up the phone and just putting in a quick call to your mentee. Just say, hey, thinking about you, want to check in, follow up, see how things are going since our last meeting. Nothing urgent. No need to call me back if you don't need anything, but I just want to let you know I was thinking about you. That would be a beautiful 12-second voicemail for any mentee to receive. And there's a lot of power in a voicemail, because when you think about it, that is your kind of human signature, your audible signature. And so many times people will call, the person doesn't pick up, but they don't leave a voicemail. Or they'll call, the person doesn't answer, so then they send a text. How about leaving a voicemail? You've already made the investment of time to dial, right? Little things that can make a big difference to personalize the relationship. And I think also this is just good networking, good business practice as well. But one of the other really important things, again, for the mentee is the follow-up. You come together, they share a piece of time with you. Be sure you follow up with a thank you. Make it authentic. Don't just say, hey, Trevor, really enjoyed coffee. Thanks for your time. All the best, right? That note could be sent to anyone for anything. You want to personalize it, reference something that came up in the conversation, reference some key point that they made, show that you were actually paying attention to the conversation. And also, if you can include some sort of an anecdote about how that takeaway affected you or what you're going to action from that conversation. really personalize it. One of the things that I like to do is send an email that very afternoon, right? Because we still live in an era of instant gratification. So you send a quick email, thank you, and you write out a written thank you note and pop that in the mail. And so then they get the 1-2, right? They get the immediate gratification of the thank you email. And then a few days later, boom, this nice handwritten card arrives too, which just goes into a little more depth. And just like I mentioned, the voicemail being an audible signature, an audible, kind of a human touch, handwriting is the same thing, right? Because everything we get is typed these days. So little is actually written by hand. And it's just another way to take the relationship to the next level and make it that much more personal. When they see your handwriting, it gives them yet another connection to you that an email just doesn't do. Even if it was the exact same content, right? It's much more powerful delivery if they get it written versus on screen. Only problem is it takes 2 to 3 days, right? So that's why I recommend the 1-2. So
No, that's great. That's great advice. And we did have one other question come up, I think could be good to answer here. And then I promise I'll give you your slides back. But someone said, in thinking about becoming a mentee and meeting with a mentor, they just have so many questions. And so instead of overwhelming the mentor in that initial meeting, what do you recommend for the mentee? What are some key questions you recommend to ask in that first initial meeting?
yeah, no, that's great because especially if it's, it can be a high pressure situation, right? Let's say you get that meeting with that CEO that you've always admired and you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 30 minutes with this individual and there's so much I want to ask him. How do I cram it all in? And, the other thing is you want to take the pressure off of yourself and the pressure off of the mentor, but particularly off of yourself. Because if you are panicked about the agenda, panicked about squeezing all your questions in, panicked about how you asking the questions in just the right way, your brain's going to be flooded with cortisol and you're not going to be in a relaxed, open state of mind to think deeply and clearly hear what they are sharing with you. Right? It's like when you, not that any NU students would do this, but if you had class and you hadn't done the assigned reading and you show up to class, you're a little bit nervous going into that lecture because you don't know the background story, right, of what the lecture is going to be about. Even if the reading wasn't that related to what the lecture is about, just knowing you didn't prepare puts stress on your brain. And when you're in that classroom, you're not going to be listening as deeply and retaining as much as if you had done the assignment and felt more comfortable when you walked in the room. Same thing with your mentor relationship, right? So let's say you get that meeting. You've got a list of 100 questions you want to ask that individual. Recognize that even if you had 100 meetings, you probably wouldn't ever get to 100 questions, and that's okay. You want to have a loose agenda, and by loose agenda, some good questions prepared that are connected to your goals, right? There's a reason you're reaching out to this individual in the first place. Why? And one of the things the mentor may ask when you first sit down with them is, how can I help? What can I do for you? What are you looking to do in career? What are you looking to do in life, right? And so being ready to answer that question and say, I reached out to you because I've been following your work and I am fascinated in your sector, and your career path is something that I really could see myself undertaking at some point soon. I would love to hear your story and recommendations you might have for someone like me 20 years earlier, maybe wanting to get on a similar track to you. And that one question right there can get most people talking for an hour. Right?
That's
What
true.
you'll also find is if you ask a really good, big, broad opening question like that, a lot of all the other questions on your list will get answered in time. They'll probably touch on it, right? But keep that list and you can always refer back to it with each successive meeting and work your way through it. But maybe start with 1 or 2 of the biggies, get those out there in meeting 1, and you can always come back to them, right? But really, I keep emphasizing the more casual, more organic, natural nature that mentoring should be. It should be a free-flowing conversation between 2 individuals, right? And again, ideally, you're sharing with them as much as they are sharing with you. You want them to get to know you, right? And you as an individual, so that 5 days, 5 months, 5 years from now. If they see an opportunity or think of something, you want them to remember back to you and make that connection for you. So again, flexible focus on the questions and on the agenda, but don't overscript it. Don't overthink it. You're going to turn yourself off. You're going to turn your mentor off, and it's just not going to be a fun relationship. The other thing on that note is that mentoring doesn't have to be a forever thing. Right? It's not like, ooh, I reached out to this person, they said yes, now I've got to keep meeting with them regularly for the next 5 years. It could be a one-off, right? It could be an as-needed basis, right? I think that all mentoring relationships have a natural course. And when they have run that course, it is totally fine to say, hey, thank you so much. I wish you well. Don't feel like because someone has agreed to take your meetings that you have to keep asking for the meetings if you feel like you've gotten everything you can out of that relationship. And importantly, you feel like you have shared everything you can with that person as well. Again, it should be organic. The mentor-mentee relationship should last only as long as it is adding value for both parties. And in fact, Nancy was sharing with us a mentor-mentee relationship that she had. And it ran its course and it did its thing. And that individual landed in an amazing career, and that's the whole point, right? And that individual, Nancy mentioned, does check back with her from time to time. But that is an example of a mentoring relationship that probably had an intense period. The individual got what they needed out of that relationship from Nancy. Their career accelerated, and now they're good. And now they're just keeping in touch and keeping her updated with how they are progressing. That is a beautiful example of how a mentor relationship can start, blossom, and kind of wrap up and maybe go into more of a sustaining low intensity maintenance state from there, moving on. Any other questions before we go to the next slide?
No, I think we're good. We have some great questions coming up, but we'll let you make some progress and we'll be back.
Okay, great. And again, your mentor doesn't necessarily have to be career related. Again, selecting a mentor is just someone you want to spend time with, someone you want to learn from, someone that you think you can benefit from having in your life. Okay, best practices. This is, again, more for the mentees, but also for mentors, is you want to meet the expectations that you are setting in their minds of you. And again, I mentioned it's going to be a two-way street, a conversation, mutually beneficial, but the onus is still on you as the mentee to drive it. And so that consistency of contact, even if you don't have a reason to meet, don't make one up, but that's a good opportunity just to send them an update, right? So you keep the relationship warm and keep it active. You don't necessarily have to meet every quarter or every month or whatnot, but between your meetings, keep them updated so they don't forget about you, but also one of your updates may trigger action or advice on their end. So be consistent with your contact, be consistent with how you show up to your meeting. And this kind of goes to the third one on the list. But obviously you want to take this very seriously, right? I keep talking about, well, it should be casual and organic and you don't want to overstructure it. All true. But how you, and I'll use air quotes here, show up really matters. And it's all the simple stuff about how anyone would want to make a good impression. But do take it seriously because they are making time for you, carving time out of a very busy schedule that they probably don't have. So they are making that time for you, and you want to be respectful of it. So you want to look professional. You want to look engaged. When you show up, I always recommend having something to take notes with. And this is important. A lot of people, when they show up to meetings and things, tend to bring their phone and take notes on their phone. And that's just, it's convenient if it's in your pocket. The problem is when someone sees a phone versus a notebook, and I'm going to hold mine up. I use a digital notebook called a Remarkable. It works exactly like pen and paper. It's just digital. When people see you handwriting notes versus typing something into a phone, they automatically think that is a higher level of diligence because phones are so closely associated with texting, social media, non-work related things, even if you're using it for a work-related function. The optics of someone sitting at a meeting taking handwritten notes looks so much better than someone tapping on their phone or even tapping into a laptop. You don't want to go into a mentor meeting with your laptop open, virtual or in person, because the screen becomes a physical barrier between you and the person on the other side of the table or even the other side of the Zoom, right? The other thing is you have the tapping sound of the keyboard. So handwrite your notes. Always, always, always show up with something to write with, because you never know what sort of gems this individual is going to share with you. They may be sharing names, emails, phone numbers. You want to record all of that down. It also, when you show up with something to write with, what it signals to the individual you're meeting with is, I am here, I am prepared, I appreciate your time, and I've brought this writing implement because I know that you are going to have things for me that I'm going to want to take away and I'm going to want to write down and capture. And so it's very much a sign of respect to the person that you're meeting with to come with something ready to write. And if you can do it on something bigger and a little more formal than your phone, again, a notebook, a digital writing device, something, the optics again on that are so much better. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you hand write something, it actually transmits it and locks it into your brain much better than when you type. And I don't know what the mechanism is, but handwriting helps you commit things to memory, and you're more likely to follow up on it if you handwrite it versus just typing it. So something else to think about. And people just have a affinity for good note takers, right? When you're sitting with someone and you're talking and they're taking good notes, that sends a strong, powerful message. So be mindful of that. And, lastly, if you're meeting with someone, let's say it's in a coffee shop, you show up to a coffee shop, you sit down and all you have in front of you is a cup of coffee, you kind of look a little naked, silly, and exposed, right? It doesn't necessarily, it looks too casual when you don't have something to write with. So take notes, make notes about things you want to follow up with them about. The note taking is great for your thank you note because now you've got actual things you discussed recorded that you can refer back to in your thank you note. And it also kind of serves as a journal of that mentoring relationship that, as you know, if it becomes long term or however long it runs, you've got something that you can reflect back on, right? And it always looks good when you start, let's say, meeting number 3 by referring back to your notes from meeting number 2, because that says to the mentor, oh, wow, I'm actually having an impact here. And what I said last time mattered so much that they remembered it for this time, and they want to now build off of that. We talked about making it mutual. We talked about follow-up. But again, make the follow-up quick, right? No more than 24 hours if you're doing an email. And again, I recommend that 2-pronged approach because people get so little hard copy mail these days. And of that hard copy mail, a minute amount is actually handwritten, right? When you get a stack of mail, what's the first thing you open? It's the handwritten cards, right? Because it's personalized to you. It's not some generic marketing piece or some kind of a mailer. Okay. Any questions on this slide before we move to the next?
We've got some great questions in the chat we can run into
Okay.
here if you want. One thing that's come up a couple of times is the idea of how mentoring might be different from coaching. We've gotten a couple of questions that sound a little bit like maybe someone who's coaching a coworker or someone on their team. How would you describe the difference between coaching someone versus mentoring?
I think they're kind of synonymous. I think a good coach is a mentor. I think using the term coach is also a nice, I think the connotation around the term coach, it is all positive, right? Because a coach to me says it's someone on my team, right? And it implies a coach almost is, in my mind, is almost even more powerful, right? Because it implies that they are focused on you and your success, And I think it also implies a little bit more of a long-term relationship, but again, in a casual, natural kind of way. I know a lot of organizations, they use them interchangeably. I know we do in our organization. And I think also mentor, in my mind, does kind of have a little bit of an ageism to it, right? I mean, we just can't help but think, oh, the mentor must be the older of the two. Whereas a
Mm-hmm.
coach, to me, doesn't have quite that same. So I think they're both great to use. You know, again, a coach obviously has the sporting connotation, someone who's in your corner, you know, someone who's going to do the Monday morning breakdown with you. But I like them both. I like them both.
Okay, good. Um, and what would you say, can you have more than one mentor? Is it okay? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think of mentoring as like an ecosystem, right? Each of us are a pinpoint in this ecosystem. And going back to kind of how we opened, right, about the fact that mentoring happens all around us. It's really it's mentoring is an exchange of information, an exchange of perspective, of lived experience. It can be a one-off conversation, or it could be a lifelong relationship. It could happen while you're standing in line to get your morning coffee, sharing some advice for the person who just joined your organization. And it might stop and start right there. So it's happening again all around us. And again, I really want to make the point that even if you're a student, even if you're very young, even if you're brand new in the workforce, you are probably a mentor to classmates, to siblings, to friends. Going back, it's coaching and advocating for others around you. And I very much believe in the rising tide lifts all boats, right? That as a mentor, it is not a sunk cost. The time you invest in all these other individuals, it will come back to you. They may very likely be the next rock star team member you hire at your organization. You may work for them one day. They might be one of your funders someday. They might be one of your constituents who helps get you elected to office, right? There's a million ways these relationships can pay dividends. And I think a lot of smart leaders carve out time in their life to mentor and have a multitude of mentoring relationships going at any one time, because they are seeding the ecosystem with relationships that will pay dividends to them in the future as well. They may not know it, and they may not know what those dividends will look like, but 100% it will benefit them as well in some way, shape, or form. If nothing else, from the simple fact of the satisfaction of seeing those people that they met with thrive and succeed in life. There's a ton of value in that too, right? Because it reinforces your impact as an individual. I'm getting kind of deep here, but the mark you're making on this world, right? And there's a lot of value in that. It's very validating. We are burning through time. I'm fine continuing the conversation for a little bit. Let me move to Lindsay. We have two more slides, one more slide.
I think you've got a couple more, yeah.
Okay, and great. And some of this we've already covered. Let me talk about, how do I know if I found a great mentor? If your brain hurts after the conversation, right? Because there's just been a lot of information, a lot of learning. Sometimes the mentor will be talking about one thing, but it will get your mind going in a different area, which can also be super helpful. That's where the notepad comes in handy. Write it down so you can think on it later, come back to the conversation so that you're present with the mentor. But a good mentor relationship at times may get a little uncomfortable, right? I mean, you're probably going to be digging into some very real, sometimes very heavy stuff. Lean into the discomfort, because it means you're really onto something, right? You're both being stretched. Sometimes feedback can be really hard to take. Sometimes it may not feel justified. You may get into defensive mode and feel like you've got to support your position. Fight that tendency, right? If the mentor is sharing it with you, it means it's important enough for you to at least hear and consider, even if you don't agree. But again, I'll reiterate also number 5 there, mentoring doesn't have to be a forever thing. It can be a one-off, it can be 2 meetings. Don't overthink it. You may get a lot of value just in that one meeting alone, and that's totally fine. Don't force it. You don't want to keep asking for these meetings when it starts to feel like it's a little repetitive or a little bit artificial. You don't want the tank to be dry for either you or for either the mentor or the mentee. So feel free to let it go, because you can always go back later, right? So let me close there. I think we got one more slide. I love to. So that's a funny quote about mentoring. Again, this comes back to not necessarily trying to be over structuring it and asking someone, will you be my mentor? Will you be my mentor? But you want to show that you're serious about getting something out of this person's time and that you're serious about making a difference in this world and making a difference in your own life. Right? I mean, that's why you're reaching out to this person anyway. And so in that sense, again, going back to what we talked about with how you show up, right? Are you looking professional? Are you well-rested, energized, engaged? Do you have your writing implement? That all comes down to the ambition and the seriousness, to the ambition to get something worthwhile out of the conversation and the ambition to add value for your mentor as well. Next slide, Lindsay. Okay. I always love to end with sharing some books. In fact, Dr. Mark Milliron is fantastic about this. Every time I see him, I always ask him, what are you reading? And he's always got a recommendation. In fact, so David Brooks, How to Know a Person, that was one of Dr. Milliron's recommendations. I'm almost done with it. That's one I'm reading right now. These are 3 of my recent favorites. And I think they're just good books for life, for career. The How to Know a Person is great for the mentor-mentee relationship, about how do I see my mentor? How do they see me? How do we deepen this relationship? Grit is a classic. Time Smart, I think, should become a classic. Great for really busy people trying to juggle family and career. And Originals is a great one to kind of, I don't want to say help us get unstuck, but to really help with breakthrough thinking by hearing how others have done it and examples of how great companies were built against all odds, great organizations were built against all odds. I found it really invigorating and helpful. So I'd highly recommend all 4 of those. And other than Time Smart, which is not on audiobook, the other 3 are on audiobook. So if you're an audio learner, or if you're time crunched and the only time you have for reading is while you're in the car going to pick up kids or between work and classes and all that sort of stuff, you'll love the audiobooks. And I know David Brooks narrates his own. I can't recall. I think Angela Duckworth narrates her own as well. I don't think Originals does. But I also love when the author narrates it themselves. I just feel much more of a connection to the book when the person who wrote it is the actual person who's reading it to me. So I will end there, but happy to take a few more questions. And it was a pleasure being with you all, and I hope that added value for everyone.
Thank you, Trevor. I think there were a lot of great takeaways in what you've already said, and we've had some great questions asked as well. So we'll get to a couple of them here with
Okay.
our time left. One that came up was about setting boundaries as in that mentor-mentee relationship. What do you recommend for that conversation in making sure that everyone's time is valued, but that there's still a level of accessibility there as well?
Yeah. So I'll address 2 boundaries, the chronology boundary and the relationship boundary, right? Because you also want to be respectful of the person's time. In making that initial ask, I love coffee, right? Because it's light, it's casual. You can ask I'd love to grab a 30-minute coffee, because that shows them, hey, I'm not trying to take up your whole day. But you are asking for still a meaningful chunk. If someone accepts your meeting request and they say yes to 30 minutes, don't schedule another meeting in 60 minutes. give that ample time to run, because you never know if you really hit on something. Firstly, nobody expects a coffee meeting just to take 30 minutes, right? If someone says yes to a coffee meeting, they're probably planning on spending at least 45 to 60 minutes. But you don't want to ask for 60 because that sounds like a big chunk of time up front, right? But expect it will take at least 60 minutes. But if you really hit it off and the conversation is really running, you don't want to have to cut it off prematurely either and say, oh my gosh, this has been amazing, but I got to run to another meeting or I got to do pickup or something like that. You want to give it room to run. You don't want to miss out on anything, because you don't know. This might be your one and only meeting with this person. There's no guarantee you're going to get a second one, right? So that's some thoughts on time boundary. On relationship boundary, this is a lot more sensitive, and this is where you've got to sort of be in tune with your own inner moral compass and just comfort level, right? And so it can go both ways. Maybe you're feeling that you're not going deep enough, right? And it's staying too surface level and too shallow. How do I ask those questions so we can go 2 or 3 layers deeper, where I can really have the impactful learning and hear about the stuff that I really want to hear about? And also, how do I make sure I don't go too deep, because I want to keep it, professional, and I want to make sure that both of us feel comfortable moving forward, right? You don't want to get any sticky situations, right? Because once you've gone to a different level in a relationship, it's really hard to go back. And so I would say pay attention to your gut and don't let the power dynamic steamroll you. I.e., if you are the younger person having that meeting with an older, more experienced person, or maybe someone who's rich and powerful, whatever, right? Don't let that perceived power dynamic stop you from pulling back if it's going somewhere that you're not comfortable with. And we all have that spidey sense, right? When all of a sudden we feel like, ooh, this is going somewhere I'm not ready for. If you feel uncomfortable, redirect, right? You can go back to, right? That's a great way to stop something going down one track and put it back on another. So it might be a line like, hey, thanks for that. That was really interesting. You mentioned something a few minutes ago about XYZ. I'd love to hear more about that. So, and it could have been by accident, right? I mean, maybe sometimes maybe the conversation just got derailed, right? You want to try and put it back in a place where you and the mentor are both comfortable. But if that happens multiple times, you got to get out, right?
That's a great point.
Because not all mentor-mentee relationships, like I said, they're not meant to last forever, and they're not all a good fit, right? You want to make an educated guess or an educated pick when you're reaching out, but you don't know for a fact that it's going to be amazing. If you are asking enough, for instance, informational interviewing, if you're doing enough of it, if you're reaching out enough, if you are leveraging this mentor-mentee relationship, you're going to have some that are just not going to be amazing. It's just the law of numbers, right? And that is okay, because it means you're reaching far enough, right? So for instance, in the recruiting world, if every single candidate we headhunt says yes, to me, it says we're underreaching. Aim for the stars, hit the moon, right? When you are reaching for candidates at a level where they're starting to turn you down, now you know you are scratching on the absolute extreme of what's possible in that situation or what's possible for that hire. And that's a good thing, right? So don't feel bad if someone's turning you down, because again, aim for the stars, hit the moon. It means you are reaching far, and you never know. You never know. Some people have a real passion for this stuff. In San Diego, it tends to be, this market tends to be people who were not actually born here. So everyone themselves is a transplant. They all remember what it was like when they were new to town and didn't know anybody, and they got where they are in life because someone paid it forward for them. They took their meeting, they made an introduction, whatever. So that ethos is kind of baked into our local culture. And I know it is in some other communities around the country too. That's also part of what keeps this mentoring thing going forward too, is people remember hey, I got here because so-and-so made that introduction for me way back when, and that got me on this career track. That got me my foot in
Right.
the door with this company. I got that first interview, right?
Right.
As a mentor, think about how you can continue to pay it forward. And mentee, please do the same once you are the one being sought after.
Absolutely. Great advice, Trevor. Thank you so much. I think we all took quite a bit from this presentation. I'm going to turn it back to Nancy here shortly. Just want to let you all know this is recorded and we will share it out on our website as well. So in case you missed any of the book information or want to tune back in to hear these nuggets of wisdom one more time, we'll have that up in the next 48 hours. All right, Nancy, give it off to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Trevor. We're very happy to have you do a second session because the first time you had kind of implied that this is another area of importance, and our audience certainly was interested in having you return. And I truly believe that everyone benefited from the content today because I think anyone who's had a really great mentor knows how important that's been in their history. And there's nothing more rewarding than serving as a mentor to others, whether they're, in your field or not. But I know I love, being able to serve, and they do, it has a natural course in being a mentor, and you kind of know when that will be. I'm also happy to share that I have the David Brooks book
Oh,
right in front of me, and we're actually
well, that's
hoping
funny.
to potentially get David Brooks for a more formal speakers
That would be amazing.
series session in the future. So we'll keep you all posted. Please know this is how you can reach Trevor. And I don't know that he will be able to. I know we had one person ask if you could serve as a mentor. I know you're very busy and have a very full portfolio of clients, but I think this guidance and, please share all of our speaker series from the past with people because we really want you to learn and find out more about important topics like mentoring. It truly can make a difference in your lives. Few other things we'd like to share coming up. Next slide, Lindsay. So we've got several things coming up. An entrepreneur workshop for our students and alum in Phoenix, Arizona, coming up next week. Alumni Association meeting for those of you with our alumni. National University has a very proud contingency that will be in the Pride Parade on Saturday, July 20th. Also, Alumni Chapter Chat on the 22nd. And pleased to share that the National University Foundation will be holding a gala on Thursday, July 25th at the USS Midway. So if you want any more information on that, please look on our website. And we will be posting our August speaker series. Just special thanks to Trevor, to Heather, and certainly to Lindsay for supporting this month's speaker series. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you and your
Thanks, everyone.
attentiveness.